here we go. This is the big one. Welcome back to more state test prep. And as I said, excuse me, I just sharpened my colored pencils. As I said, this is the big one, 7.RP.2. This is ratios and proportions, part 2. This is far and away the standard with the most questions that have been released by the state. I think our second highest standard was somewhere around 16 questions. This has double that. This has, I believe, 31 questions. It's going to be a lot, but let's get into it. Okay. So, two quantities, A and B, have a proportional relationship where A is -4 and B is -3. Create an equation to represent this relationship. Okay? So, when you have a proportional relationship, you can write proportions a number of different ways. But hold on one second. I apologize. This is going to be a quick second for you, but I need to pause the recording for a second. Okay, so, number of ways you can look at a proportion. Usually I prefer to do fractions, so -4 to -3, or you could do with the colon, -4 to -3, okay? So when they want you to have this proportional relationship, if A is -4 when B is -3, then all you need is a situation where you have A is equal to 4/3 of B. Okay? So for every 3 B's, there are 4 A's. You could also write this as B equals 3/4 of A. Whichever one you're sticking with the fraction wants to be on the denominator. For every 4A, there are 3 B's. Either of these works. Question 2. The relationship between the number of cups of water W and the number of cups of lemon juice J used in a recipe are described by the equation shown. J equals 2W. How many cups of water are needed for each cup of lemon juice? Now, this is a deceptive question. Okay? Because they want you to look at this and say, okay, 1J, 2W, the answer is 2. It's not. Because if you put in 1 for J, for 1 cup of lemon juice, you get 1 equals 2W. 1 equals twice W. To get W by itself, which again, if you need review on this, I would check the EE standards, 7E1, EE2, EE3. You would need to get W by itself. You would do that by dividing both sides by 2. So you would actually have 1/2 equals W. You only need 1/2 of a cup of water for each cup of lemon juice. Do not just fall for the trick of putting in 2. I'm going to go through these questions kind of fast, trying to cover as many situations as I can, because, I said there's 31 of these. Question 3. The graph shown models the relationship between the distance a car travels and time. What does the point 60, y represent in this situation? So 60 is your x. Y is your y. Your y represents distance. Your x represents time. So 60 represents the time in minutes. It means you've gone 60 minutes. So with that being said, y is how far you would have gone. Y is your distance. So if you've gone y miles in 60 minutes, that means that this represents that the car travels y miles per hour. Let's go to question 4. Abdul has an original recipe for a fruit drink with apple, orange, and pineapple juice. He He makes new fruit drinks by mixing different quantities of the three juices. The table shows the amount of each juice in the recipe and in each drink. Select all the drinks, select all, meaning probably more than one, that has the same proportion of juices as Abdul's original recipe. So we're dealing with a 1 to 1 3/4 to 1/2. Okay? So, here's a couple things we can do. Okay? First thing we can do is we can multiply all of these by 2. And you might be saying, Mr. Dietz, what does that do for me? Well, what it does is it tells us what should be in with 1 cup of pineapple juice. Because 1/2 times 2 is 1. 1 3/4 times 2 would be, let's see, actually, are we allowed to, I believe we're allowed to calculate it for this question. 1 3/4 times 2 would be 3.5. Finally, 1 1/4 times 2 would be 2.5. Ooh, I sharpened my colored pencil too much and now it broke. Okay. So, now we look at any drink that has a pineapple content of 1 cup. Drinks 2 and 3. 3.5 matches 3.5. 2.5 matches 2.5. Drink 2 is good. Okay. Let's keep moving. So, oh boy, this is a doozy. Oh, wait. We know that drink 3 is not. Okay. This is a doozy of a question. So let's use some sense here. Okay. For drink 4, we know that the cups of apple juice goes from 1 1/4 to 1 1/3. That means the amount of apple juice went up because 1/3 is greater than 1/4. The amount of apple juice went up. Okay. The amount of orange juice, 2 3/4, also went up. But probably by a lot more than, the apple juice. The cups of pineapple juice, however, went down. For us to even think about this qualifying, either all 3 need to be up or all 3 need to be down. So 4 is disqualified because it needs to have the same ratio. Okay. 5, 1 7/8. Apple juice went up. Cups of orange juice, 2 5/8, went up. Cups of pineapple juice, 1/2 to 6/8, went up. Drink 1, 1 1/4 to 1 2/3 went up. 1 3/4 to 2 1/3 went up, and 1/2 to 1 to 2/3 went up. Let's see if there's anything else that we can see here. Nope. Oh my goodness. So I have to look at this question for a couple minutes. The Ohio Practice OST doesn't tell you which questions you're allowed a calculator on. I'm going to assume that you are allowed a calculator for this question because this question would be way too time consuming if you were not permitted a calculator. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at drink 1. Drink 1, your cups of orange juice go from 1 2/3. Whoops. To divided by 2 1/3. And that is a 5/7 proportion between these two. The original recipe has a 1 1.25 divided by 1 3/4, which is also a 5/7 recipe. The difference between orange juice, 1 3/4, and 1/2 is 3.5. Just like how in drink 1, 2 1/3, 2 1/3 divided by 2/3 would make 3.5. So this has a ratio of 5/7. This has a ratio of 3.5. Therefore, drink 1 is fine. Now we check drink 5. 1 7/8, 2, 2 5/8 is 5/7. That's good. We know we want 5/7. And 2 5/8 divided by 6/8 is 3.5. So our ratios for this are the same. So what happened with this problem, and why this problem took so long to explain, was because I was looking at ways of doing it without a calculator, when this is clearly a question that you should just do with a calculator. This is clearly a question you should have a calculator for. Okay? So divide this by this to figure out the ratio. Then divide this by this to figure out that ratio, 5/7 and 3.5. Then you should go through each choice and figure out which ones have the same 5/7 and 3.5 ratio. In this case, it is 1, 2, and 5. One of those ones is just far easier to do with a calculator. Question 5. 4 proportional relationships are described below. Move a relationship to each blank box to order the relationships from smallest to largest constant of proportionality. Okay. So, constant of proportionality is pretty much just take one of the points and divide y by x. It's y over x. Okay? So, for example, here you have 8 over 30. Or, I'm sorry, 30 over 8. So your constant of proportionality will be 30 divided by 8, which is 3.75. 100 feet every 30 minutes. That is 100 divided by 30, which is 3.33. Here you have y's of 260 divided by 60. Whoops. Which gives you 4.333. Finally, y equals 4x, where x is the time in minutes. So this is a situation where, just for fun, we could plug in 1 for x. If you plug in 1 for x, then you would get 4 for y, because 4 times 1 is 4, which would give us a constant of proportionality of 4 divided by 1, which is 4. So now you just got to put them in order, from least to greatest. Smallest, second, third, largest. All right, question 6, no calculator. Mary buys P peaches at the farmer's market for $D each. She spends a total of T dollars on peaches. Create an equation that represents the relationship between T and P. Okay. So, she buys P peaches for $D each. She spends a total of T dollars. So when you see a total of, Usually that wants to be on one side of the equal sign. So we're going to put T on this side of the equal sign. Then she buys a certain amount of peaches, P, for D dollars. So you just put T equals P times D. The total amount she spent is equal to the number of peaches times the price. That's it. Question 7. The table shows the number of songs and the length of each music playlist on an MP3 player. Each song is the same length. How long in minutes is each song on the playlist? All this is asking for is, what is the constant of proportionality? Which, as we established earlier, is y over x. Which would mean, in this case, you could pick any one of these, it doesn't matter which. We'll do the first row, 16 over 4 is 4. So your constant of proportionality is 4. A dance studio offers ballet and hip-hop classes. The studio has 8 ballet classes for every 12 hip-hop classes. How many hip-hop classes are there for each ballet class? Okay, so hip-hop classes first, 12. For each ballet class, divided by 8. Again, we're just looking for a constant of proportionality. Y over x. You determine that the hip-hop classes are the y because you're looking at hip-hop per ballet. Just like when you were driving a car and you have miles per hour, your miles driven goes on the top of the fraction. Hip-hop per ballet. So 12 divided by 8. Now, even if you can't remember that, which is 1.5, even if you can't remember that hip-hop is supposed to go on top, if you try to do 8 over 12, that would give you 2/3, 0.666. And considering that more hip-hop classes are run than ballet classes, it should set off a trigger in your mind that 0.666 is smaller than 1, and that doesn't make sense. All right. Question 9. A bread company makes wheat dough and rye dough every day. The company makes 15.2 pounds of wheat dough for every 9.5 pounds of rye dough. How many pounds of wheat dough does the company make for every pound of rye dough? Wheat per rye. I cannot stress this enough. When you have a calculator, it is just that simple. Wheat, 15.2, per rye, 9.5. 15.2 divided by 9.5. Not 95. 1.6. That's it. Keep moving. The tables show the cost for different numbers of song downloads. Which table has a proportional relationship? So all you're doing here is you're checking which tables have a constant proportionality. So just do y divided by x for each line. So here we go, table 1. 3.5 divided by 2. That gives us 1.75. 7 divided by 4, 1.75. 8.75 divided by 5, 1.75. 13.25 divided by 5, 2.65. Uh-oh, that's different. I'm sorry, it's divided by 7. Divided by 7. 13.25 divided by 7, it's still wrong. 1.89. Messes up at the very end, therefore not a proportional relationship. Next one, 3.5 divided by 2 is 1.75. 8 divided by 4, I don't even need the calculator for this one. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Uh-oh, not the same. So that's out. We go to 3. 350 divided by 2. At this point, we know that's 1.75. We've done that twice already. $8 divided by 4. Uh-oh. That's not the same. So last one. 350 divided by 2. 175. This should be it, but we're going to double check. 7 divided by 4. 175. 875 divided by 5 is 175. 1225 divided by 7 is 175. That is our proportional relationship. It's D. It's the only one that has the same constant of proportionality all the way down. A scientist records the number of deer observed in 3 areas of a forest. The table shows her observations. How many deer per square mile did the scientist observe in the forest? Deer per square mile. Y divided by X. Pick one of the rows. It doesn't matter which. 153 divided by 17 is 9. That's it. I promise you it's that easy. At Olivia's Burger House, each burger costs the same price. John buys 5 burgers for $7.50. Place the point at the location on the graph that represents the unit price for one burger. Okay. So, it needs us to find the price for one burger. We bought we paid $7.50 for 5 burgers. So, cost per burger means $7.50 divided by 5, which is 1.5. So for one burger, it is 1.5. So we're going to go to the graph where we have one burger and put a point at 1.5. Done. Question 13. Which table shows a proportional relationship? This one I think is easier than the other one because there's some obvious ones you can ignore right away. D, your Y isn't changing. That means there's no way that since your X is changing and your Y isn't, there's no way your constant of proportionality will be the same. Okay? C, this is going up additively, not multiplicatively. 2 to 1, that would be 1/2. 3 to 2 would be 2/3, because 2 divided by 3 is 2/3. That's out. Let's try here. 4 to 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 9 to 3, or 3 to 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Uh-oh. So we check the last one. Y divided by X. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 10 divided by 5 is 2. It's B. This one is a lot more obvious than the previous question. A grocery store sells an 8-ounce bottle of juice for $1.76. What is the cost of the juice per ounce? Calculator allowed. Cost per ounce. Cost per ounce. 1.76 divided by 8.22. 22 cents per ounce. Done. Question 15. This one has no calculator. An energy company graphs the average amount of rotations that a windmill makes each minute for 4 minutes. Which statement describes what the point 112 means in terms of rotation in minutes? So 1 is your x, 12 is your y. Your x represents time. So that means this represents 1 minute. And this 12 represents rotations. One rotation occurs every 12 minutes. No. 1/12 of a rotation occurs every minute. No. The windmill rotates 12 times in 1 minute. That's the one. It's rotating 12 times per minute. 12 divided by 1 is 12. 16. Calculator allowed. Chaos. Family spends $105 to rent a boat for 7 days. The total cost, C, of the boat rental is proportional to the number of days, D, the family wants to rent the boat. How much does it cost in dollars to rent the boat for 1 day? So it costs $105 to rent for 7 days. Okay? So we're trying to find cost per day. Cost per day. Cost per day. 105 divided by 7. 105 divided by 7 should be 15. Yep. Costs $15 to rent the boat for 1 day. Create an equation using C and D to represent the proportional relationship. Well, D is the amount of days. C is the total cost. Okay? Remember, total is usually on its own side of an equation. So C equals 15D. $15 per day is equal to the total cost. Question 17. Michael knows that 2 cans of paint is the exact amount he needs to paint a 10-foot by 12-foot wall. Use the add arrow tool to show the relationship between the total square feet and the number of paint cans necessary to paint them. Okay, so square feet. We have 10 foot by 12 foot square feet. Square feet. What do you think of when you hear square feet? I think of area. So we need to find the area of the wall. The area of the wall is equal to length times width, which is 10 times 12. Area equals 120. So we know that you need 2 cans to paint a wall with an area of 120. So we look for 2. And we look for 120. So it looks like each box is 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Yeah. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 120. I determined how much each box is worth because I saw that there were 5 boxes between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between 100 and 50. 50 divided by 5 is 10. So I knew each box was worth 10. And when you hit the add arrow tool, you want to have 0, 0. And then it'll add the arrow much better than how I drew it. Question 18. An online music store sells songs on its website. Each song is the same price. The cost to purchase 8 songs is $10. Create an equation to represent the relationship between the total cost and the number of songs purchased. Create an equation. Okay, so we have to find the cost per song. Cost per song. Well, if you spend $10 for 8 songs, that means you paid $1.25 per song. So we're creating an equation to represent the relationship between the total cost, C, is equal to the amount you pay per song, which is $1.25, times the number of songs that you purchased, S. Equation done. At this rate, how many songs can be purchased for $25? Well, if it's $1.25 per song, and you're buying 25 songs, you just multiply them, and it is $31.25. That easy. Let's go to question 19. The graph of a proportional relationship is shown, no calculator allowed. What is the constant of proportionality? So when you calculate the constant of proportionality, you just want to pick one of the points on the graph. Let's go with, I don't know, here. Find the y. Remember, the constant of proportionality is y over x. So 4 over 2. 4 over 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Question 20. On a car trip, the number of miles driven, M, is proportional to the number of gallons of gas used, as shown in this table. Create an equation to show the relationship between M and G. So we need to find the constant of proportionality, because anytime you're asked to create an equation, it's always, y equals the constant of proportionality. There's actually, I believe there is an abbreviation for it, and I don't remember it offhand. Let me go double check. We're doing this live. What is the abbreviation for the constant of proportionality? We're doing it live. It is K. Okay, that makes sense. So the abbreviation for the constant of proportionality is K. Your equation will always be y equals K times X. Now, it's not always going to be Y and X, because sometimes they give you the variables to use. So in this case, our Y is miles, our X is gallons, so this will be M equals K times G. Miles equals the constant of proportionality times the gallons. So now he's got to find the constant of proportionality. How do we do that? Well, what do you know? It's the same thing we've been doing. You're going to pick one of the y's. I'm going to pick 64. We're going to divide it by that y's x, which is 2. And you get 32. Oh, wait. That's the constant of proportionality. K is 32. So your actual formula, your actual equation is M equals 32 times G. And that's your equation. Whew, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. A graph is shown. What is the unit rate in miles per hour shown in the graph? Unit rate is the same thing as the constant of proportionality. Unit rate is the same thing as the constant of proportionality. Pick a point. Bam. Y of 3, X of 1, 3 divided by 1, 3 miles an hour. Starting to go loony from this section. Question 22. We still have 10 questions to go. A teacher buys 25 notebooks for a total of $12.50. Each notebook costs the same price. Which equation represents the total cost C in dollars of notebooks at this price? So remember, y equals K times X. Our y in this case is the total cost, so C equals the constant of proportionality times the number of notebooks. Now we just need to find our constant of proportionality. It is cost per notebook. Cost per notebook. Okay, so cost 12.5 per notebook. I'm sure you are getting tired of hearing me talk about this, but like I said, this is probably the most often question standard on the test. So I have to make sure that I do plenty of examples for you of these questions. Here we go. It is C. Oh boy. How far are we into this video? I'm intrigued. Where is this video clocking at? 35 minutes. You know what? Not as long as I thought it was. Question 23 from the Spring 2023 OST. No calculator allowed. Uh-oh. Oh, that wasn't supposed to be using a calculator. My fault on that one. All right. A catering company charges $8.25 for each box lunch ordered by a customer. Create an equation to show the total amount in dollars charged for box lunches. They give us the constant of proportionality, $8.25 for each. So this is literally just y equals kx, where y is the cost, equals k times b for the box lunches. So the constant of proportionality is 8.25 times the number of lunches. 95% of these problems is figuring out which one's the y and which one's the x. And typically, the total cost will be the y. Typically. There's like 1 or 2 situations where it won't be. But I would say 9 times out of 10, the money part will be the y. 24. Select a word or phrase for each blank box to complete the statement. Describe your proportional relationship. A proportional relationship can be represented by the graph of a point or line that passes through only the x-axis, only the y-axis, or the origin. Well, let's think about every graph we've seen so far. Every graph we've seen so far has looked like this. That's because for a proportional relationship to work, your first point has to be at 0, 0, because anything times 0, you notice how we have y equals kx, right? If x is 0, anything times 0 is 0. So if x is 0, y has to be 0. Therefore, 0, 0 has to be on every graph of a proportional relationship. So therefore, this is a line that passes through the origin, because the origin represents 0, 0. Question 25. No calculator. This graph shows the cost of pineapple at a grocery store. Which part of the graph represents the cost per pound in dollars for pineapple? Well, whenever I hear per pound, I'm thinking of the cost for 1 pound. So the first answer I'm going to check, the very first answer I'm going to check is the one where x is 1. 1, 4. 1 would be right here. 4 would be right here. Hey, wow, that works. Ta-da! Question 26. Which table represents a proportional relationship? Okay, so all 4 of these go through 0, 0, so sadly we can't eliminate 1 right away. However, we can kind of see out the gate that this has 1, 1, and we all know that 1 divided by 1 is 1, and we know that 4 divided by 2 is 2, so we can eliminate that quickly. So let's try A. 2 divided by 1, 6. We're allowed a calculator. Let's use it and abuse it. 2 divided by 1, ABC. Whoops, that's not ABC. ABC 6 is 12. 4 divided by 1, ABC 3. We're just doing y divided by x every time, is 12. 8 divided by 1, ABC 2, is 16. Doesn't work. Let's go to 3. 1 divided by 3, 0.333. 2 divided by 6, 0.333. Whoops, that shouldn't be 0.0333. 3 divided by 12 is not 0.25. So now we know it's D, but let's double check, because you never know. You could have made a mistake. 2 divided by 1/6 is 12. 4 divided by 1/3, also 12. 6 divided by 1/2, also 12. D. Question 27. We're almost there. Daria reads the same number of pages each day for a week. The table shows the total number of pages she has read by the end of the day. What is the constant of proportionality? All right, well, we know that's y divided by x. Calculator allowed? Calculator allowed. Pick any two. This is your y. This is your x. 56 divided by 2. 56 divided by 2 is 28. You are done. No calculator. I have to tell myself that now. The graph shown represents the proportional relationship between the tablespoons of baking soda X and cups of water Y needed to make a cleaning solution. The constant of proportionality is P. So, they even tell us this is X and Y. Select all the statements that are true. Okay, so we know that for a proportional relationship to work, we have to have Y equals K times X. In this case, our constant of proportionality is P, so Y equals P times X, okay? Or this needs to be a situation where the P is equal to Y over X. So, here we have a Y of M on an X of A. So M over A would give us P. Bam. Here we have N over B. So N over B would be a constant of proportionality. Let's check our choices. For every A cups of water in the cleaning solution, there are M tablespoons of baking soda. This is incorrect. And even though M and A are connected to each other, it's because it has it backwards. A represents your baking soda, while M represents your water. So that's incorrect. For every B tablespoons of baking soda, there are N cups of water. This is correct. N is paired with B. B is baking soda, and N is water. For every M tablespoons of baking soda, we already know this is wrong because M represents water. There are N cups of water. M and N aren't even paired together. No, I did not have the answers up here. M and N aren't even paired together, so this is wrong. Oh my goodness. Question 29. Calculator allowed. A machine at a factory produces plastic tubing in different lengths. The rate of production is constant. The table shows lengths of 4 different parts and the time it takes for each to be produced. Okay. A factory worker notices there's an error in the table for one of the parts. Complete the statement to show. Complete the statement to show how to correct the table of values. Okay. So, the table shows length and the time that it takes for each to be produced. Okay? So, length would be your X, time would be your Y. Okay? So let's do this. 102.2 divided by 0.5. Y divided by X. 204.4. 153.3 divided by 0.75. Y divided by X. 204.4. 122.10 divided by 0.60. 203.5. Uh-oh. And 275.94 divided by 1.35 is 204.4. Okay. So, which part is incorrect? It's part C. Now it says the time should be blank seconds. So if you have a ratio of 203.5 seconds per meter for 0.6 meters, you would multiply, I'm sorry, the actual constant is 204.4. This is the wrong constant. To multiply, oh my God. To find 0.6 meters, you have to multiply 0.6 by 204.4, because that is your constant of proportionality. The answer is 122.64. Mo, no calculator allowed, buys X pounds of strawberry that costs Z dollars per pound. His total cost is Y dollars. Create an equation to describe the relationship between the three variables. So as always, total cost, your total should always be by itself. Y equals the number of pounds of strawberries you buy at the amount per pound. Total equals pounds times price per pound. Last one. A pump removes water from a ditch. The graph shows a relationship between the water removed by the pump and the amount of time since the pump started removing the water. How many gallons of water does the pump remove per hour? You're not going to believe this. We're going to use this with the constant of proportionality. We're going to pick a point on here. I like the one where, the time is 1 because it's easy to divide by 1. Your Y, 60, divided by your X, which is 1, equals 60. It removes 60 gallons per hour. And that, thankfully, is it. So that wraps up the largest standard. We're coming in at a cool 47 minutes for this video. I apologize that I kind of flew through some of these questions. A lot of these questions were very repetitive. You want to just remember your constant of proportionality, y divided by x. And then to set up the equation, y equals k, which is the constant, times x. That's it. Okay? If you have any questions, please let me know. This is an important standard. I would encourage you to ask questions on this one or ask your teacher when you come in before the test. Important standard. Okay? Until then, I'll see you next time. Good luck on the test.